Hey, welcome to Sports Unfolded. I am your host, Eric. My main man, I'm going to mess this up. I knew it. There we go. My main man, Ron. I'm used to you being on the other side. And we are doing our NHL ranking show. So a lot of changes in between. Uh, Top team remains the same, but we're going to discuss 5 through 1 here. And I know you've been dying to get this team in. So first of all, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
Okay, glad to hear that.
There's a little delay, so it's a little confusing.
All right, is it back on? It seems fine on my end right now.
But you know, there has been a lot of changes, Eric. Some teams are still hot, and some teams are not. And Washington is certainly one of those teams that aren't. They're on and off again. So they have vacated their spot in the top five for that's been going for a while now.
Yeah, yeah, they've been on, and they've been in there pretty consistently. So let's talk about the team at number 5 because I know you're very excited about this.
Yeah, they've been rolling. Number five is Boston. Uh, they went 4-0 last week, and it wasn't easy because they had to play Washington. They had to play Nashville, and I know they stomped all over Montreal, but it's still a rivalry game that they got up for, and Montreal could not. And then they had a tough game with Philly, who has a lot of skill, and I really don't know why they're not playing as well as they should be.
So,
Probably all the COVID and injuries and stuff.
so a couple of different things with them, Boston. Obviously, the fact that Tugarask returned um,
Right.
helps. But you also saw, to
Lot.
me, can I say, listen, I've been one to criticize Cassidy in some of the coaching decisions and some of the team's lack of energy
Right.
during courses. It seems like he's gotten them on the right track again. They have the players, they have the horses to get some things done. Are they a championship contender? I don't think so.
Oh, I think they are.
Okay.
And, they may need one more piece because they got one piece in the net. And that is a second line center. Yeah, I like what Holla has been doing. But he's not going to be consistently that kind of a player. Um, you need to get a bona fide center to center Pasternak and Hall, and that's what they're gonna try to address. That I'm sure. Um, if they don't, then maybe there could be somebody like a Studnicka comes up and finally puts it all together. For what Cassidy wants him to do, and maybe they go out and get a defenseman because I personally rather have the defenseman that can move the puck. Um, that they're towards the bottom at scoring when it comes to defensemen, and you have to be able to move the puck up. And let's face it, when you have one of your goaltenders that likes to kick out rebounds in front of them, Olmark I'm talking about. You need to have somebody that can get that puck up the ice. So,
So, I mean, if you look at it this way, though, Swayman's getting some playing time in Boston, Providence, which
yes.
is good, right? So let's continue to have him looking at it. But I think it's interesting to just see that Boston A made it into the list, but B that you feel they're a contender. I still think they're a piece away.
Well, yeah, they are a piece away. I mean, that's clear. But a lot of other teams are as well. You only have really maybe Florida, Colorado might be the only two teams that are there and
Okay,
ready.
and it's a good segue because at number 4,
At number four, Florida comes back in. Another stellar week for Florida. They went 3-0 this week, beating up on Vancouver, Dallas, and Columbus Blue Jackets. Um, you know, this team, we've been talking about this team pretty much all year long. and there's just no let up. I mean, when you have Joe Thornton centering your fourth line, that's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, how far in between? Like, where have we gone?
It's like, how does this team even improve? At the trade deadline, I don't know how they improve. Like maybe a defenseman, as if they're not playing good enough defense. But they're gonna make a move, and that's a scary team. That's a scary team to play.
Right? They've been if we looked at it right from the beginning, they've been one of the top 5 teams pretty much throughout
Yeah, and
this.
if you really look closely, they dropped out basically because of COVID.
Yeah, when they had they didn't play
They
enough
had it,
games.
and then everybody else that they were supposed to play has had it, so the games kept getting postponed. They've still only lost 7 games, regulation games. That's incredible at this point. So this team is primed for the long haul. They are already set up to succeed in the playoffs, and it's going to be tough if they just keep adding somebody. Like if they go out and add a goal scorer, good luck to everybody else in this conference, because if they add a goal scorer to what they already have, it's lights out.
Again, young, fast team, and they're very competitive. So who do you have at number 3?
Number 3, Carolina. They slipped down a spot.
Another team.
They went 1-1. They lost to Columbus, and they beat Vancouver. Kind of a schedule for them for the week. I believe they had a game postponed. But they got a tough week ahead of them. They got Boston, New York Rangers, and the Devils. We're gonna find out what Carolina's made out of right now. They play Boston actually tonight.
Oh,
So
big
so that's a big game for both teams. I would think the loser of that game most likely drops out of the top 5.
So if Boston wins,
then
do they move up?
They'll definitely move. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say definitely because they have other games to play. So, but that would be huge because they have a game against Washington as well as Carolina. So they get a tough week. But matter of fact, Boston's next 5 games are all against winning teams. So they're going to be pushed to the limit in the next 5 games. So and it seems like they're always playing somebody good. I don't know the scheduling, outside of Montreal, they've been playing, winning teams. It seems like every week.
Yeah. And again, Carolina's been one of those teams, pretty consistent, been in the top 5. Again, another fast team, a lot of speed. So, it seems like that's the way the NHL is going.
Right.
It's more about getting speed.
And led by Sebastian Aho, like right now, he might be top 10 player in the league.
One of Ron's all team. He is on the Ron's all hockey team. Yes.
Yes, Sebastian Aho.
Yes. So at number 2,
don't call me that.
Don't call.
So yeah, Carolina. I give them the edge against Boston. Look, if they use their speed, Boston can't keep up, and if they're gonna have bare bones at defense, it's going to be a tough game for Boston. And if Allmark is playing.
No, I see it. I see it. I see what you're saying. What about at number 2?
Number 2, Tampa Bay. I'm already sick of saying it. This team 3-0 for the week. It beat Buffalo, Vancouver, and Dallas. Not a hard schedule. Dallas is a pretty good team, but
you win the games you're supposed to win, right? So they're winning the games they're supposed
to beat
win.
those teams.
So
and they're going on a West Coast trip to play LA, Anaheim, and San Jose. So they're doing that California road trip. And all three of those teams right now are playing well. Um, but again, they're playing well in a division that's not so good, in a conference that's not so good. So, like these strong Eastern teams are going and they're rolling over these teams, and I don't see anything to stop Tampa Bay there. I think they beat all three of those teams, and I think they remain, on point.
So obviously, the
I really
defending
do.
two-time defending champion
Yeah.
is this. Could we see them back in the Stanley Cup and winning it again?
You could, because Vasilevsky, he's the best goalie in the world right now. Best goalie in the world. It's not even. I don't even think it's debatable. Some other people might say it's debatable, but there's no way. He's clearly the best in the world. And when you got guys like Steven Stamkos and Kucherov and Braden Point, you got so much experience, and so much skill. Hedman. Like this team is
It's
again
loaded.
stacked. This might be another team that is already ready for the playoffs, and I overlooked them when I said Florida and Colorado. Tampa Bay is one of those teams as well.
And again, with the experience and being there,
Yeah,
right,
and
makes such
doing
a
it.
difference. Yeah, you know what I mean, and being able to win it back to back. So the coaching staff on
Right.
down obviously
Cooper is
understand.
fantastic. What a great coach.
Yeah,
What a
right.
great coach.
What it takes to win, what it takes to continue to be one of the top teams.
And
He's
to
gotten his
mentally
players to play.
prepare them.
Yeah, right. You think about it. How easy is it to just fall back? And we've seen it with so many times with a team that's won it,
Yep.
unable to just get that same stamina and momentum
It's
to want to
hard.
continue.
In the NHL nowadays, it is hard to repeat, and you got to give them credit where credit is due. They're pushing all the right buttons. They got those role players that you need to have, as well as the skill. Like, so they have all that. And again, if they go out and get a player, it's just gonna solidify. Florida, Tampa Bay is gonna battle it out for this. To go to the Stanley Cup. That's what it looks like to me right now.
Oh, all right. So number one, they
Number
remain at
one
number one.
is probably what I think is the only legitimate team in the Western Conference. The only team. Now, Colorado with Nate McKinnon and Radden, they look, they gave up on Grubauer, who was one of the top goalies in the league last year, and they went and they got Kempfer from Phoenix or Arizona.
Arizona, yes. Coyotes, yes.
They changed the name so many times, it's like you can't keep up. So they figured, okay, well, we can get the same goaltender because look how well he played in Arizona, and they made a gamble and it paid off. They're getting great goaltending. They're getting obviously great goal scoring. You know, they know how to move the puck out of their own end. They do all those little things right. So the transition game, just covering in front of the net, and being a presence in front of the opponent's net. They do all those little things so well. And that's why I can't just hand the Stanley Cup to the Eastern Conference because Colorado is legitimate. And, I find it hard to believe anybody else is going to be in the Stanley Cup other than Colorado. It would take probably injuries or COVID to stop them.
So of the top of these five, obviously Boston being number five. Big matchup this tonight with Carolina that could drop out. Is there any other teams that could either sneak in, or of these five teams that you feel may
Well,
be
it's
out
funny
there?
you say that, Eric, because I went and I listed my top 14 teams today.
Look at you.
Um,
You are
Number
always
6, I
going above
still
and
have
beyond.
Washington. So Washington can really get back in it. Um, I think Washington is kind of a lot like Boston, to be honest with you. I mean, the talent levels are pretty comparable when you think about it. So, you know, I, I mean, look, it's Ovechkin, Marchand, different types of players, but the skill is there.
Yeah.
Backstrom, Bergeron, so it's like you got these same pieces everywhere, up and down the roster. Uh, and it's whether or not they can maintain and keep teams down like Toronto, Rangers, Pittsburgh. Those are the teams that I think are in the upper class. So, like a team like Minnesota, right now I have them at 7,
And they were in last week,
but they
so
don't have enough to be that elite team. All those other teams we're talking about, Toronto, New York, and Pittsburgh, Boston, Washington, those are the teams that are scraping and clawing their way to that number 5 spot. Because I think the other 4 teams, I think that's what those are the 4 top teams.
yeah.
And for the most part, they've been there all year, along with Washington. But now Washington, they're older, so is the
The
season
window
going to be too long for them?
is the window
That's the
closing.
problem.
Yeah, is the window closing, and to eventually get to a point
Exactly.
where
Exactly.
again, and everybody we're talking about younger, faster. Seems like the new way of the NHL and what they're trying to do. So
Absolutely, it is,
can
and
they compete?
and Toronto has so much offense. It they still need a piece or two on defense. The defense is suspect. When they go on the road, they give up leads. They can be had.
So I'm gonna ask an interesting question, and this is kind of a little bit off of this list. But the NBA, when we talk about the NBA, we talk about like a player or two that are the key of these teams. And I've noticed, like, you're talking about the top 2 points scorers in the league right now, right? Drysdale and
Draisaitl and McDavid, yeah, they've
McDavid,
lost like 10 in a row or something
right? So,
ridiculous.
but is it hockey more about the teams and less about the players you have, or do you feel like Because I'm looking at the list, and again, the top teams, you're not talking about the top players being the leaders on these
No,
lists.
in most cases it's not. Yeah, they get the scoring, but who is setting the tone for the teams? That's what you got to look at. And when you look at teams like Tampa Bay and Florida, it isn't necessarily the top scorer on the teams that, set the pace. It's usually those defensemen that are bringing the puck up. That is what's doing it. And so you're looking at Hedman for like Tampa Bay. He's the catalyst on that team. He's bringing the puck up. He's getting the job done. You know, not only defensively but offensively. But he's setting that pace for the team. And let me tell you, in the NHL, that 4th line, that is what dictates a champion. That is what dictates it. Because you look at that year, 2011, when Boston had, Thornton, not Joe, Sean Thornton, on that line with Corrali and Wagner. And, those guys set the pace of the game by the checking and the hits and, that attitude and that swagger. It's not the players, that score all the goals necessarily. Like Pasternak doesn't dictate how the Bruins play. That's not what's dictating it. It's that 4th line is dictating it, and Marchand.
Yeah.
So you look around the league, and those teams with 4 lines deep, those are the ones that you got to look at. And Florida, Colorado, they all have that. Tampa Bay, they have that. And they're just rolling out line after line after line. And when those checkers, that are those role players, get in, do the forechecking, grind in the corner, they might not necessarily ever score goals. But what they do is they they dictate the tempo and the pace to the other lines, so they have to come out and they have to play the same way. And that is the importance of the team. And Edmonton has not figured that out yet.
Gotcha.
They don't
Gotcha.
like you can have all the scoring in the world, but if you're going to give up more,
Yeah.
what's the point?
Exactly. No, great point. I just figured I'd ask. So let's look at the list real quick and how we came up with the final piece here. So again, Colorado at number 1. We've got Tampa Bay at number 2, Carolina Hurricanes 3, 4, Florida Panthers, and the Boston Bruins making their way in at number 5.
Yeah, and I would suspect those top 4 probably for the rest of the year, you will probably see those names be talked about all the time.
They should be in just about every week.
Yeah. There may be a week where they have a 2-3 game losing streak or something like that and drop out, but they'll be back, at least in a week or 2 later. I don't see those 4 teams changing. It's where that number 5 team comes into play. And like I said, that list is Washington, Boston, Toronto, New York, and Pittsburgh.
Those would be the teams kind of in
Those
the
are the
mix every
teams.
week.
That's it. That's the competition right there. And no offense to NHL Network and TNT when they say that Detroit or the Islanders are going to catch Boston for that last wild card spot, they're dreaming, because they're 11 games, 12 games over 500 right now. So even Detroit, who is behind them, is only they got a 500 record. They have to win 13 in a row just to catch them. And if they do, that's if the Bruins lose it all them.
Yeah.
So, there's no way those teams are going to catch Boston. I think what you see in the Eastern Conference right now are your playoff teams.
Gotcha. So, if you like what you're watching, check us out every Friday night. We're live. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter on Rhode Island Broadcasting. And that is 6 p.m. Friday nights live. We do our whole show then. You can follow us on social media at Sports Unfolded on Facebook and Twitter, at Broadcasting RI on Twitter, Sports_Unfolded on Instagram. Don't have time to watch, listen to us on our podcast on Amazon, Anchor, Google, and Spotify. A lot of different ways to watch, listen. We are doing amazing things. We are continuing to try to fill the sports world with some Sports Unfolded. So we're excited about what this year has brought already and what we continue to bring. So we've got a lot coming up. Friday's show, we're going to try to do a Patriots postseason end of season show tomorrow with Kenny. We'll try to bring Kenny. We're doing the NBA ranking show as well, hopefully with Kenny this week, as well as we've got our we're going to do a Super Bowl show, I'm sure, because we normally will. And then we're going to have an awards show in March. And Sports Unfolded will give out our Sports Unfolded awards for the year for the previous season. So looking forward to all of that. So continue to tune in, 6 p.m. Friday. We're really excited about that. Ron, as always, my main man, always a pleasure. I love doing these with you. They're so much fun.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your hockey knowledge, man. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. See everybody.
Mm-hmm.